great to speak with you today
Thank
the
you.
new season of Special Forces. Tell me, what did you think when you got approached about being on the show?
The courtroom was filled wall to wall, every bench taken, every aisle pressed with onlookers, but you could have heard a pin drop. Not a whisper. Not a shuffle. Just silence. It was the kind of silence that wasn't just an absence of sound, but an oppressive weight. A silence so thick you could almost feel it pressing against your chest, making it hard to breathe. The tension clung to the air like humidity, sticking to the skin of everyone in the room. People shifted in their seats, but even the smallest movements, the creak of wood, the rustle of a sleeve, sounded louder than they should have. The anticipation was unbearable, as though the entire room had been holding its breath for hours. In the front row sat the producers from TLC, stiff as statues, their pens hovering motionless above their notepads. Their job had always been to document the chaos of the Brown family, but what they were about to witness was something even they hadn't dared to imagine. Behind them, scattered throughout the benches, sat members of the Brown family themselves. Wives, children, estranged siblings. Some avoided each other's eyes, staring at the floor as if they could escape the truth. Others gazed straight ahead, bracing themselves as though they were watching an inevitable car wreck about to unfold in slow motion. And then it happened. Christine Brown rose to her feet. Slowly. Deliberately. The scrape of her chair against the polished floorboards echoed like a thunderclap in the room, far too loud for such a simple sound. Every head turned toward her. She stood, smoothing the front of her emerald green blouse, not out of vanity, not for the cameras, but as if she were strapping on armor before battle. Her face was serene, but her hands trembled ever so slightly at her sides. It wasn't fear that caused them to shake. It was anger. Years' worth of it. Anger buried deep under decades of forced smiles, staged family dinners and carefully edited happy wife confessionals. Anger masked behind tears that had been swallowed and hidden from the public eye. Anger that had been bottled up every time she was told, "It's okay, Christine, don't make waves." But it wasn't okay. And now at last she was ready to speak. Christine's eyes locked on the judge as she began, her voice low, soft, fragile at first, like glass about to shatter. "Your Honor," she said, her tone on the verge of breaking. "For more than 10 years I contributed money into a joint grocery fund. I was told, we were all told, that it was for the family. For all of us. For all the wives. For all the children. That was the promise. That was what I believed." She stopped, her words hanging heavy in the air. A few people leaned forward in their seats, the silence stretching, daring her to go on. Christine swallowed hard. And when she spoke again, her voice wasn't soft anymore. It cracked across the courtroom like a whip. But it was a lie. The words shot through the room like lightning. A collective gasp rose from the benches, followed by the low rumble of whispers breaking out in waves. The judge banged his gavel once, but he didn't silence her. He didn't want to. He was watching her too closely, his eyes narrowed, his expression unreadable. On the defense side, Robyn Brown's lips parted, but no words came out. She sat frozen, clutching a balled-up tissue in her lap, blinking rapidly as though the very air burned her eyes. Just behind her, Cody sat rigid, arms crossed tightly across his chest, his jaw set. He stared straight ahead as if none of this concerned him, as if Christine's words were arrows flying past him instead of striking directly into his legacy. Christine's gaze shifted to the jury now, her voice steady, each syllable sharpened by pain and betrayal. "I fed Robyn's family while my own children lived off scraps." The words cut through the room like a knife. Another audible gasp rippled across the audience. Someone muttered, "Oh my God." Christine didn't falter. Her voice only grew stronger, fueled by every year she had been silenced. "That wasn't sisterhood," she continued, her tone rising with conviction. "That was betrayal. And I am here today because no one else stood up to it. Not in our homes. Not on our show. And not in our so-called family." The judge's eyebrows lifted slightly. He didn't interrupt. He let her speak. This wasn't just testimony. This was a reckoning. Christine reached into her bag and pulled out a crumpled piece of paper, its edges frayed, its folds deep and worn from being opened and refolded hundreds of times. She held it up for all to see. "This," she said, her voice shaking but firm, "is the original family pact. The one we all signed. The one where we committed to splitting money for groceries. Equal contributions. Equal allocations. Food for all the children. She paused, her eyes moving from face to face across the room. I believed in that system. I lived it. I taught my children to share because I thought we were sharing. Her voice cracked, then hardened again. But I came to learn over time that sharing only counted for me. Behind the defense table, Robyn leaned toward her lawyer, whispering urgently. But her attorney didn't move. She was watching Christine with narrowed eyes, recognizing the power of the moment, knowing how dangerous Christine's words were. Christine's lawyer, Rachel Vance, a woman known for her calm composure and sharp precision, remained seated. She didn't need to speak. Christine didn't need prompting. Christine owned the room. Christine's voice softened, the words almost too painful to say. I recall one evening, she began. My daughter Isabel was crying. We had eggs and peanut butter left in the fridge. So I called Robyn. I explained we were short and asked if we could borrow from the household fund. Do you know what she said? Christine turned toward the jury, her jaw tight, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. She told me she had just placed the monthly order, and she couldn't redirect any of the products because her children were picky eaters. A stunned whisper filled the room. Someone near the back muttered, "Wow." Christine pressed her hand to her temple, shaking her head slowly. But I had just deposited my share 2 days earlier, she said, her voice trembling with disbelief. I had given my portion. My children were part of that order. Or so I was led to believe. Her breathing hitched. And then, with a steadiness born of resolve, she said, "That's when I began keeping records." Christine moved slowly, every step deliberate, as though the weight of her own memories pressed against her shoulders. She crossed the courtroom floor and set a large box on the witness stand. The sound of it landing echoed like a drumbeat in the hushed silence. She began pulling out binders, thick, heavy, crammed with documents, and stacked them in front of her. Her voice carried now, no longer trembling. 10 years, she said. 10 years of bank deposits, grocery lists, dates, delivery slips. 10 years of proof. These records show the same pattern over and over again. My money spent. Robyn's cupboards filled. My children left with crusts. The room buzzed with whispers, but Christine didn't pause. She reached for the first binder and opened it. Inside were spreadsheets with dates highlighted in yellow, receipts stapled to the pages, handwritten notes scrawled in the margins. She lifted one sheet high enough for the jury to see. This is from November 2017. I deposited $800 into the grocery account. 2 days later, an $820 grocery order was placed under Robyn's name. That order was delivered to her address. My house never received a single box. Gasps rang out again, louder this time. The judge rapped his gavel, but he didn't silence her. Christine wasn't grandstanding, she was telling the truth. And everyone in that room could feel it. On the defense bench, Robyn shifted uncomfortably. She bit down on her lip, squeezing her tissue so tightly that her knuckles turned white. Her lawyer leaned in, whispering something meant to steady her, but Robyn's eyes darted nervously toward the jury. Christine turned another page. This one is from March 2019. A $700 deposit from me. A $750 order. All delivered, again, to Robyn's home. She paused, her eyes locking onto the jurors one by one. And in my fridge that week? 2 cartons of milk. Pack of hot dogs. Half a loaf of bread. That was it. She set the paper down, her chest heaving. I remember my daughter standing in front of the fridge that night, staring at the empty shelves. She asked me if we were poor. She was 12 years old. And she thought we were broke because she never saw the food she thought we were paying for. Her voice cracked now, and she pressed her lips together tightly. A murmur of sympathy rippled through the audience. Even the producers in the front row looked visibly shaken, their pens finally moving again, scribbling furiously. Christine clenched her fists at her sides. My children grew up believing we didn't have enough, she whispered. But the truth is, we were neglected. They went without, while Robyn's children had cupboards bursting with fresh fruit, meat, snacks, things my kids only got on special occasions. She turned suddenly, her voice sharper now, and faced the defense table without actually looking at Robyn. You told us constantly that you needed Robyn. And Cody backed you up every single time. But we needed to. I had 6 kids in one house. 6. And most nights there wasn't even a father sitting at our table. But you You had Cody on your couch every evening and all the groceries your heart desired. The words hit like a hammer. Robyn's composure cracked. She leaned forward suddenly, her voice shrill, breaking the silence.
Intense.
Yeah, I got excited. It was like, it felt like a purpose in a way. I needed.
I didn't do anything wrong, she snapped. I have younger kids. They have dietary needs. Christine's just. The judge raised his hand sharply. You'll have your chance, Miss Brown. Please wait your turn. The courtroom stilled again. Christine didn't flinch. She didn't even look at Robyn. Instead, she turned back to the jury, her voice steady, lower now, carrying the weight of exhaustion and truth. My children grew up believing we were poor, she repeated softly. But we weren't poor. We were betrayed. For a moment, silence swallowed the room again. The cameras in the hallway captured everything. The tears brimming in Christine's eyes, the trembling of her hands, the way she straightened her shoulders despite the weight pressing down on her. Producers later admitted they had never seen her speak with such fire, such raw intensity. It wasn't the Christine the audience knew from Sister Wives. This was the Christine who had been silenced for years, finally breaking free. She turned back toward the judge. This isn't about money, she said firmly. It's about fairness. It's about children being fed or not being fed. It's about promises made and broken. I didn't come here to hurt anyone. I came here to protect the people I love. The judge leaned back, pushing his glasses higher on his nose. He studied her carefully, then gave a slow, deliberate nod. Thank you, Miss Brown. Christine let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. A long, hard exhale that seemed to release years of weight from her chest. She sank back into her seat, her eyes still shimmering with unshed tears, but her expression lighter than it had been in years. Across the courtroom, Robyn avoided her gaze. She twisted the damp tissue in her hands, her head bowed. And Cody didn't move. He stared straight ahead, arms still crossed as though if he sat rigid enough, none of it would touch him. But it did. Everyone could see it. The slight twitch in his jaw, the way his foot tapped against the floor. He couldn't hide the discomfort crawling under his skin. Then Christine's lawyer, Rachel Vance, finally rose to her feet. Her calm voice cut through the silence. Your Honor, we are presenting Exhibit A, she said, motioning toward the towering stack of binders. These include 10 years' worth of payment records, online transfers, itemized delivery orders and household budgets, all meticulously gathered and maintained by the plaintiff. She pressed a small remote and the courtroom's projection screen flickered to life. A massive spreadsheet appeared, lines of numbers filling the screen. Rachel pointed with her pen. Christine Brown contributed to a joint household account on a monthly basis from 2013 until 2021. Deposits ranged anywhere from $600 to $1,000 per month, depending on her income at the time. These transactions are documented, verified, and in several cases explicitly noted as grocery budget. The jurors leaned forward, squinting at the screen. Rachel clicked again and a bar graph appeared. And here, she continued, is the allocation. Of all household grocery orders placed during that period, approximately 128 orders. Only 7 deliveries were made to Christine Brown's residence. The words hung in the air. 7, Rachel repeated slowly, her voice almost echoing. The courtroom erupted into stunned murmurs. On the defense side, Robyn leaned urgently toward her attorney, whispering heatedly. The lawyer scribbled furiously in her notepad but didn't interrupt. Cody shifted uncomfortably now, his arms uncrossing just slightly, his foot tapping faster. Rachel clicked once more. And now here are the photographs. The screen flickered again, preparing to show what everyone in the room was waiting for. Undeniable visual evidence of where the groceries had really gone. The projector flickered and the first photograph filled the massive screen. It wasn't dramatic at first glance, just a grocery delivery slip stapled to a brown paper bag. But the address was clear, Robyn Brown's residence. Rachel's voice cut through the silence. This is delivery number 47, dated August 2018. The order was paid directly from the household fund. The delivery company confirmed this was dropped at Robyn Brown's doorstep. Gasps echoed through the benches. A woman in the back clapped her hand over her mouth. The jurors leaned closer, eyes darting between the paper on the screen and Christine at the stand. The next slide clicked into view. This time it wasn't just a receipt. It was a photograph of crates stacked high, brimming with groceries. Fresh fruit. Premium cuts of beef. Cereal boxes in bulk. Cartons of milk lined neatly on a porch. The kind of abundance every large family dreamed of. Your Honor, Rachel continued, this delivery alone cost $940. The funds came directly from the shared account. Christine Brown deposited $800 into that account the same week. Christine's eyes closed briefly as though she couldn't bear to look. When she opened them again, tears brimmed but didn't fall. She forced herself to face the jurors. My children ate toast that week, she whispered. Toast and eggs. That's all we had left. The words struck like daggers. The audience murmured louder, the tension swelling to a breaking point. Another click. Another photo. This time Robyn's children were visible through the open doorway, unloading the boxes, smiling, laughing, their hands full of snacks and bags of chips. Christine's hand flew to her mouth, her composure breaking for just a moment. She shook her head slowly, whispering more to herself than to anyone else. And mine went to bed hungry. The jury shifted uncomfortably. One woman's eyes glistened with tears. Even the judge exhaled heavily, his face drawn tight with restrained disbelief. Robyn snapped. She slammed her tissue down on the table, her voice high and sharp. This is being twisted. My kids are younger, they have needs. Christine is exaggerating. But her outburst didn't land the way she expected. No one rushed to comfort her. No one looked convinced. Even her own lawyer pinched the bridge of her nose, exhaling slowly, as though she knew the tide had already turned. Christine didn't even look at Robyn. Her gaze was fixed on the jury, her voice trembling but unyielding. Do you know what betrayal tastes like? She asked them. It tastes like stale bread and watered-down soup while your sister-wife's children eat steak. It tastes like watching your child cry over an empty fridge while you sign another check, believing it's for everyone. The room fell silent again, her words vibrating in the air like aftershocks from an earthquake. Rachel clicked one final time. The screen filled with the last photograph. Christine's kitchen. The cupboards bare. The fridge nearly empty. Just a carton of eggs, a half jar of peanut butter, and a single bottle of ketchup sitting on the shelf. The contrast was damning. On one side of the screen, Robyn's porch, overflowing with groceries. On the other, Christine's kitchen stripped to almost nothing. A sob broke in the gallery. Someone muttered, "This is heartbreaking." Christine's hands trembled as she pointed toward the photograph of her own fridge. "This was my reality," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "This was what my children saw. This was what they thought was normal." The judge's gavel struck once, not in anger but in a demand for composure. Yet even he couldn't mask the heaviness in his eyes. Christine's lawyer stepped back, giving the silence time to settle. Then slowly she turned to the judge. "Your Honor, the evidence is clear. For nearly a decade, Christine Brown's contributions supported Robyn Brown's household disproportionately, leaving Christine and her children deprived. This isn't just mismanagement. This is exploitation. A pattern of neglect." Robyn shifted violently in her seat, her whisper sharp and venomous to her lawyer. But it was too late. All eyes turned to Christine once more. She stood, shoulders squared, tears drying on her cheeks. Her voice was quiet now but unshakable. "This was never about money," she said again. "It was about dignity. It was about children who deserved to feel safe, to feel full, to feel equal. And it was about promises made, promises broken over and over while I was told to stay quiet." Her words lingered, echoing like smoke after a fire. On the opposite side, Cody finally shifted. His arms fell from their cross, his posture slumped just slightly. For the first time he looked up at Christine. His face was pale, unreadable. But the silence that followed him was louder than any words he could have spoken. The judge leaned forward, folding his hands together. His gaze swept across the courtroom, at Christine, at Robyn, at Cody, and then settled on the evidence displayed behind them. "This court cannot ignore what has been presented," he said firmly. "The testimony, the documents, the photographs, they tell a story not of shared resources but of betrayal, of inequity, and of promises broken at the expense of children." The room was still. Even the air felt frozen. Christine's breath shook as she sat down, her chest rising and falling rapidly. For the first time in years, she wasn't carrying the weight alone. She had spoken. The truth was finally out. Robyn bowed her head, her tissue shredded in her fists, her face streaked with tears. But not sympathy, not shame. Panic. Fear. The image of control slipping away. And Cody still silent. Still motionless. But the cracks were visible now, the mask of patriarchal authority fractured beyond repair. The judge's gavel struck one final time. This court acknowledges the verdict in favor of Christine Brown. The audience erupted, not in cheers but in gasps, sobs, whispers that filled every corner of the room. Christine closed her eyes, her lips parting in a trembling breath. Lighter. Freer. A woman who had carried the silence of betrayal for too long finally heard. And as the courtroom emptied, the whispers followed like smoke. She destroyed Robyn. She exposed everything. She finally told the truth. For Christine Brown, this wasn't the end. It was the beginning. The courtroom screen flickered to life, illuminating the stark contrast between two households. Row upon row of neatly organized shelves appeared. Robyn's pantry filled with organic canned goods, vitamins, snacks, all carefully labeled in bins. The image of abundance was almost pristine. Then the camera panned to Christine's fridge. Nearly bare, containing only a few eggs, a half stick of butter, and a bottle of off-brand ketchup. More photos appeared, each one more damning than the last. Robyn's deep freezer was overflowing. Frozen meats, salmon, bags of fruit, ready-to-bake dinners. A display of abundance that seemed almost obscene in its perfection. Christine's freezer told a very different story. A few frozen vegetables, freezer-burned chicken legs stuffed in a plastic bag. A stark image of scarcity. Rachel Vance, Christine's lawyer, addressed the courtroom, her voice calm but charged with authority. "Miss Brown, can you confirm these photographs are authentic?" Christine nodded solemnly, her eyes steady. "I took them the same day," she said softly, but the weight behind her words made the room hold its breath. Two households, same grocery budget. Hers mirrored her bank account. Mine did not. Rachel faced the jury. "This is not jealousy. This is justice." Christine contributed faithfully to a system she was assured would be equal. Instead, she paid for another family's bulging fridge while her own children wondered why dinner was smaller, why the milk was rationed. A juror dabbed at their eyes, the emotion in the room almost tangible. Rachel moved on, holding up Exhibit B. Christine's Venmo and PayPal records. Over 100 transactions, all categorized as grocery or house fund. Each sent to Robyn Brown's account. Receipts verify the purchases. But the deliveries. Rachel paused, letting the moment hang in the air before dropping the bomb. They all went to one address. The screen switched to a map of delivery services, location pins clustering overwhelmingly at Robyn's home. 95% of every order had been delivered there. A few deliveries went to Mary or Janelle, but less than 5% reached Christine. Cody let out a long, uneasy sigh. Robyn finally spoke, her voice a whisper laced with strained emotion. "I had the youngest children. That's why I ordered more. They were at school. They needed lunch boxes. I wasn't stockpiling anything. Christine, she's making it out like drama." Rachel stepped closer, her tone firm. "So, you're saying you shopped for groceries just for your children using a common fund?" Robyn faltered. "Well, I didn't keep track. But you did manage the orders, right? You arranged deliveries, made the calls to the markets and online services?" Robyn nodded slowly, her voice barely audible. "Yes." Rachel's voice sharpened. "And 10 years later, Christine, who paid almost half the money, received only 7 grocery deliveries." Robyn did not respond. Rachel pressed play on a recording, a 2019 voice memo between Christine and Robyn. The courtroom grew still, every ear straining to catch the words. Christine audio. "Hey, I saw the Costco order. Was any of that for our house?" Robyn audio. "No, sorry. I needed extra this week. The kids are blowing through snacks. I'll make sure you get something next time." Christine audio. "It's been 5 months since we've gotten anything." Robyn audio. "Yeah, I know. But this order was kind of necessary." The last line replayed again. "Yeah, I know. But this order was kind of necessary." The courtroom was still. Even the tiniest whisper had disappeared. Christine rose, holding a printed screenshot of a text conversation, her voice quivering as she spoke. "There was never a next time. I requested groceries one Wednesday. Robyn replied, order already submitted. Sorry. Let's circle back next cycle. There never was a next cycle. Her lips trembled and she looked down at her hands. I began making my own bread. Not because I wanted to, but because I couldn't pay for a loaf and still send my children to school with fruit. Rachel addressed the jury, voice soft but piercing. This is not exaggeration. This is deliberate exploitation. The family fund was founded on trust. Trust that Robyn would allocate it equally. He didn't. And when Christine asked why, she received excuses. She had the trust of the family, the financial control, and she abused both. Christine stepped deliberately past the jury box. While she made almond-crusted chicken and fresh smoothies for her children, I was cutting mold-off cheese, telling my kids, just a few more days until payday. Robyn stood abruptly. I was doing my best. The judge raised a brow. Sit down, Mrs. Brown. You'll have your turn. He glanced toward Christine's children in the second row. They sat quietly, but their expressions betrayed years of silent meals and unseen injustice. Rachel spoke softly, leaning toward the jury. This isn't about the food. It's about what the food represents. Love, fairness, safety, dignity. And for years that was withheld from half this family while the other half had seconds. Christine sat quietly, eyes fixed on the jury. She did not weep. He did not need to. The proof had spoken. The spreadsheets, the bank transfers, the binders, and the images had done what silence never could. The courtroom had already been rocked by her calm yet passionate testimony. It had felt the weight of 10 years of pent-up betrayal. But no one was ready for what came next. The judge cleared his throat. The court will now hear the testimony of the next witness for the plaintiff, Miss Robyn Brown. A hush fell over the gallery, like the calm before a storm. Robyn rose, her steps measured and deliberate. She wore a plain gray blazer, black jeans, no makeup, no jewelry. Her face was unadorned, courageous. Christine's eyes lifted with gentle pride, but Robyn didn't return the look. She was already focused on Robyn. After being sworn in, Christine's lawyer moved forward. Robyn, can you tell us your relationship to the plaintiff? I'm her daughter, she answered, voice distinct and unwavering. One of Christine Brown's 6 children. And while your mother contributed to the family grocery fund, did you live at her house? Yes, Robyn said firmly. From childhood through college breaks. Did you ever notice anything unusual about your home groceries? Robyn laughed quietly, not with humor but with anguish. Yes. We didn't have much. I assumed we were broke. Meals were stretched. Rice, frozen corn, sometimes just toast and peanut butter for dinner. But when I babysat at Robyn's, her house was like Costco had exploded inside. The courtroom was silent, the weight of her words sinking in. Can you explain? The lawyer pressed. Robyn's voice hardened. Robyn always had groceries. Name brand, fresh, organic. Lunchables, juice boxes, frozen dinners, rotisserie chickens, snacks we never got. Her pantry could feed a family of 20. And did you know your mother was funding the same grocery budget? Robyn's jaw tightened. She revealed the transfers to me. Venmo payments every month. $800 at least. But we never received a single box from those orders. She said to me once, there wasn't enough to go around this time, but there was enough for her house. Did you confront Robyn? Yes. I was 17. I asked if we could bring some snacks home after babysitting. She said, those are for my kids. Gasps filled the courtroom. Christine bit her lip, tears threatening to spill. And when you told your mother? She said it was okay. The courtroom screen flickered once more, casting a cold light on the stark disparity between 2 homes that shared the same supposed resources. Rows of neatly stacked shelves appeared first. Robyn's pantry, organized with obsessive precision. Organic canned goods lined the shelves like soldiers, vitamins stacked in symmetrical columns, snacks labeled in orderly bins. Everything seemed almost ceremoniously perfect, the epitome of abundance. Then the camera panned to Christine's kitchen, to the barren fridge that looked more like a pantry in survival mode. A few eggs teetered on a shelf. A half stick of butter lay haphazardly beside a bottle of off-brand ketchup. The contrast was breathtaking. The room went silent. Every eye in the courtroom was drawn to the cruel, unspoken story told by these images. More photos surfaced, each one a dagger. Robyn's deep freezer bulged with frozen meats, bags of fruit, ready-to-bake dinners. Meals meticulously prepared, almost indulgent. Christine's freezer, by comparison, was a sad collection of frozen vegetables and freezer-burned chicken legs in a plastic bag. The images did not just show disparity, they screamed neglect, inequity, and betrayal. Rachel Vance, Christine's attorney, addressed the courtroom with calm authority, her eyes scanning the jury, the family, the gallery. "Miss Brown, are these photographs authentic?" she asked, her voice a measured contrast to the storm that would soon break. Christine's voice was steady, but layered with restrained fury. "I took them the same day," she said softly. "Two households, same grocery budget. Hers mirrored her bank account. Mine did not." Rachel turned to the jury, her tone firm but charged. "This isn't about jealousy. This is about justice." Christine contributed faithfully to a system she was assured would be equal. She paid for another family's overflowing pantry while her own children were left wondering why dinner was skimpy, why milk needed rationing. A juror dabbed at their eyes. Others shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The courtroom felt thick, suffocating with the weight of truth. Rachel held up Exhibit B. Christine's Venmo and PayPal records. Over 100 transactions, meticulously categorized as grocery or house fund contributions. Each payment went to Robyn Brown's account. Receipts verify the purchases. But the deliveries, she paused dramatically, letting the silence stretch. All went to one address. The projector displayed a map filled with location pins. 95% of deliveries landed at Robyn's home. Only a handful reached Mary or Janelle, and fewer than 5% ever made it to Christine. Cody let out a long, uneasy sigh. Robyn finally broke the silence, her voice a shaky whisper. "I had the youngest children. They were at school. I needed more for them. Christine, she's making it out like drama." Rachel's eyes narrowed, cutting through the defense like a scalpel. "So your defense is that you forgot to feed half the family? That you neglected the very people you promised to protect?" Robyn hesitated, stammering. I didn't mean to hurt anyone. I thought Christine would speak up if something was missing." Christine's voice, quiet but razor-sharp, sliced through the courtroom. "You just didn't listen. Not once. Not ever." Rachel clicked to the next slide. A digital calendar spanning from 2013 through 2021. Christine's confirmed contributions were marked in red, deliveries to Robyn in green, deliveries to Christine in yellow. The screen was overwhelmingly green with only 7 tiny yellow spots. 7. Every child deserves fairness. Every family deserves trust. "And you broke it all," Rachel said, letting the truth land like a hammer blow. Then came the voice memo recorded in 2019. Christine's calm but frustrated voice. "Hey, I saw the Costco order. Was any of that for our house?" Robyn's response. "No, I needed extra this week. I'll make sure you get something next time." Christine's reply. "It's been 5 months. Nothing." Robyn's shrug in audio form. "Yeah, I know. But this order was kind of necessary." The courtroom went still. Even the faintest whisper was swallowed by the weight of injustice. Christine rose, holding a printed screenshot of a text conversation, her hands trembling slightly. "There was never a next time," she said, voice quivering with anger and pain. "I requested groceries on a Wednesday." Robyn replied, "Order already submitted. Sorry. Let's circle back next cycle." That next cycle never came. Tears threatened, but Christine held them back. "I started baking my own bread," she admitted quietly. "Not because I wanted to, but because I couldn't pay for a loaf and still send my children to school with fruit." Rachel leaned toward the jury. "This is not exaggeration. This is deliberate, systemic exploitation. A fund built on trust and equality, manipulated for convenience and favoritism." Christine's sacrifices were ignored, her children left with crumbs, literally and figuratively, while Robyn's household overflowed with plenty. Christine moved past the jury box, her movements deliberate, almost regal. While she made almond-crusted chicken and smoothies for her children, I was scraping mold-off cheese, telling my children, just a few more days until payday. Robyn's sudden outburst came like a flash. "I was doing my best." The judge's gavel struck sharply. "Sit down, Mrs. Brown. You will have your turn." He cast a fleeting glance at Christine's children. They remained silent, but their eyes told the story of years of deprivation and overlooked needs. Rachel's voice softened, though it still carried the weight of decades of injustice. This isn't about food. It's about love, fairness, dignity. And for years that was withheld from half of this family while the other half had abundance. Christine did not weep. He did not need to. The proof had spoken. Her silence had been replaced by undeniable evidence, by binders, spreadsheets, delivery logs, voice memos, and photographs that rendered argument meaningless. The courtroom had already been shaken, but the storm was only gathering. The judge cleared his throat. The next witness for the plaintiff, Miss Robyn Brown. A hush fell over the gallery, pregnant with anticipation. Gwendolyn rose slowly, every step deliberate. Her gray blazer and black jeans were unassuming, but her presence was formidable. No makeup, no adornments, just courage. Christine's eyes lifted to meet her daughter's, gentle pride evident, but Gwendolyn's gaze remained fixed on Robyn, her resolve unmistakable. Sworn in, she faced the lawyer. "I'm Christine's daughter," she stated. "One of 6. And yes, I lived at her house." "Did you notice anything unusual about groceries?" Gwendolyn's laugh was bitter. "Yes. We didn't have much. Rice, frozen corn, sometimes just peanut butter for dinner. But when I babysat at Robyn's, her house looked like a Costco had exploded inside." The courtroom exhaled in disbelief. "Did your mother fund that disparity?" "Yes. She sent money. Every month. We never received a single order. Robyn told me, there wasn't enough to go around, but there was enough for her house." "Did you confront Robyn?" "Yes. I was 17. I asked if we could take snacks home. She said, 'Those are for my kids.'" Gasps filled the room. Christine bit her lip, tears threatening to fall. "And your mother?" "She said it was okay. But it wasn't. She knew it. She just didn't want to stir trouble. He thought being nice would help." The lawyer displayed a screenshot of their text exchange. "Gwen, Mom, we need you.